Recently we had our campaigns, and my little group, we went to Richlands, North Carolina. The crew, we had John, Ginger, and Garrison Davis. PowerPoint. There's John, Ginger, and then the coolest guy on the trip, little Garrison. It was me, and then John Williams, Amber, and Trevor, and Patrick. And so we had pretty great, and John Henry. We had 3 Johns on this trip, and so there was constant first, second, and third John jokes. Constant. It never stopped. But they were always good and called for. We left, I forget what day exactly we left, but I just know that we left at 4 in the morning. Because it was over a 12-hour drive, and we wanted to hurry up and get there on our way there. Now our trip home was very much more lax, very more casual, because we weren't in any kind of hurry, but we found ways to entertain ourselves. When we got there, we were immediately greeted with love and, more importantly, a lot of food. We had awesome spaghetti and meatballs the first night, and then every morning the same thing, and we didn't get tired of it. We had scrambled eggs, and then we had, what kind of sausage? You're a sausage. You're like the king of sausage.
It's just like kielbasa.
Kielbasa sausage. It was awesome sausage. And then some southern homemade cheese grits in a huge crock pot. It was great. I was very happy each morning. But I was impressed, because when we first got there, it wasn't there kind of wasn't that weird, I'm just meeting you, but I'll be real nice. These people were like they knew us our entire lives. I was very impressed. I felt incredibly welcome there. And so we start working after the first day. We go door knocking. There you got John Henry and Patrick. I have no idea what you're doing with your hand, but
My teacher used coffee.
okay, yeah. But each day we would go door knocking twice. We'd go door knocking for a few hours, have lunch, and we'd go door knocking again for another few hours. And what I've learned from other campaigns is we'd send out, groups of 2 by 2 by 2, and then the next time we'd go out, we'd swap up groups, get everyone to know each other. And so it went incredibly well. I got some pictures of them door knocking. And there's John Williams and John Davis going down the road. Sidewalk prophets. And these people were so on fire about God, so animate about worship. Before every meal, we would just sit around and we would sing. And it wasn't like a scheduled thing. It just somebody would grab a book and start singing, and then someone would join them and then grab their own book, and eventually you just had everybody singing right before the meal. And the preacher's wife would eventually have to say, "All right, stop, we need to pray, and then we'll eat." And then we would do that. This guy, Jasper, we all thought he was around 30 years old. He is almost 60. But he was out there just about every day working harder than any one of us. And this guy had such a gentle soul. I think he's probably the one that really kind of touched all of us spiritually. He just taught us so much. He was such a loving, you can tell it was seeping out of him in everything he said, that it was all genuine, and it was unreal. And he was such an inspiration to us. And then we would meet each night. So we have Patrick leading singing here. Each night one of us would kind of conduct the services, prayer, scripture, and leading singing. And then, there we go, we're praying there. We had 2 speakers throughout the whole week. We had John Henry, they would alternate, and then John Davis. And both of them did phenomenal. They did wonderful, encouraging, and very uplifting messages. If you can tell here, John's even giving a sermon on grieving, and it happened, and he made it uplifting. It was an awesome week, and I'm sure that there was more than mustard seeds planted. He must have planted watermelon seeds with the words he was giving out. This guy was great, and I think I'm sure souls were touched, and that mission was accomplished this week. But we did more than just door knocking. We wanted to do something a little bit more practical and kind of a spur of the moment thing. I don't even remember who it was. I think it was one of the congregation said, "Hey, let's go to the retirement home and let's just sing to them." And so we spent about an hour or so in that room just singing to all of them, and the smiles on their faces, I was more blessed out of that experience than the people in the retirement home were. I can guarantee you that. All of us were.
Well, and the whole congregation went too.
That's another thing. The whole congregation did go. But I mean, if you could just look at that smile, that just speaks all the words you'll need to know. But another thing that did impress me is that the entire congregation, it wasn't just one or two people at the congregation. There would be a whole slew of them that would go out with us each day. And anyone who isn't there, they weren't because they had a job or they had children they had to take care of, that they couldn't be there. And then just about the entire congregation came with us to do the singing. And so, sometimes I would worry about when I would go on campaign, and not really worry, but like you do mission trips. And the goal is, I think, when you do a mission trip, is to help them out and get them going, but try to help them to be able to stand on their feet. Don't let them be reliant on the people that come down to help them. And that's what these people are. This congregation, they're doing amazing and wonderful things for God, very powerful things. This guy, did you even get his name, Trevor? I never got his name, but he made sure he hugged every one of us in the congregation and anyone who happened to be singing. And then, on our way out, he would stand right outside the door and make sure none of us got away without hugging him again. This guy was my favorite. He was so cool.
He almost got on the bus with it.
He almost did get on the bus with us. We had to stop that. Then we had one day of more of a leisure time, and we decided to go to the beach. I don't know, I'm very, geographically challenged because I didn't even know there was a beach around North Carolina, but I guess there is. I grew up in way south Mississippi, and so when I think beach, I think south. But now I think of it, there's probably beaches in California too. But we had a wonderful time, and it was gorgeous. It was actually real pretty blue water. And that just says swagger right there. Look at him. That's little Garrison. Boy, he was so outgoing. He wasn't one of those shy kids. He was John Davis all over. There's Trevor and Amber building themselves. They wanted to build a wall of sand to stop the tide from coming up. And I think they didn't succeed. And then Garrison decided to help him. Aww. Patrick found a dead fish. It was really cool. I don't know why, but we were so thrilled that he found this dead fish, and then he decides to eat it. He didn't really eat it. That would have been great. But over this whole trip, there's so many things that just went well. There's so many things that blessed us, and one of the bigger things, I think, well, not bigger, but one that is still affecting me is the bond, we made with each other as students. You're going to bond if you're stuck on a bus for 12 hours there and then 12 hours back. Actually, it was more than 12 hours because on the way back we stopped in Atlanta and stayed overnight. But we had a great time, obviously. And I feel like I've become much closer to my family here, to Trevor and Amber and Patrick and Williams, and then even the other two Johns who don't even go here. We had a lot of joking around going on. This little kid was so cool too. He was so full of love, just like everyone else there. But that guy, he's from Queens. And so just about the entire time, Trevor and I kept trying to get him to say bada bing. And we finally did. It was really good. But he wanted to go with us, but he had to work. But he was full of, he's one of those people that's just like Wayne Kilpatrick, just full of wise words. Just like, anytime you see him, you're going to learn something. You're going to leave with some new knowledge. Or if some knowledge you may have forgotten, he'll remind you of it. Wonderful guy. Now, it was a little hard for me to keep track because at the beginning, I gave the instructions. We need to keep count of how many we knocked, and then how many contacts and so forth. And all of us at Heritage, we did keep track of that, but there are some of the congregational members who went out and they didn't so much do that, which is fine. I mean, as long, I think, as the work was done. But doors knocked, we roughly knocked around 300, and out of those, had around roughly 100 contacts made. And that's less than half, but that's still 100 people, I think, that we planted a seed on, because some of them were really impressed that we were actually out there. But these were on, like, kind of morning of weekdays, and so a lot of people were out at work. And one really uplifting thing is we had 3 personal Bible studies, as in one-on-one, because we would ask, would you be interested in a Bible study? And I love the way John Henry did it. He was like, you'd be talking to somebody, and you can tell it was nowhere in their mind, but he's like, would you be interested in a personal Bible study? And it was like, and then they would give the nice way of saying no. I can't, I'm busy today, I'm busy. Well, we can come tomorrow. Oh, well, I mean, tomorrow I got someone coming over. Well, if you just give me a time, I can just make any convenient time for you. And he would just continue, and I think that's how 2 of these were made. But I didn't get to go on any of these because we split the team up, and I was out door knocking while these were going on. But and I know that these are they're being followed up. These weren't just one-time things. That the congregation. Because one thing I made sure was that somebody from the congregation went with them. Somebody from the congregation was in these Bible studies, because you don't want them to get accustomed and to the people who came down, and then once they get to the church, the people that they got comfortable with went home. So, but that was our North Carolina campaign in a nutshell. Feels so full of blessings, so full of love, and so full of God, I think. And it makes me excited for the spring campaign. I just love going on these things because they're so practical. They're so incredibly practical, and they teach you so much more than, and nothing against, but I'm saying, like, being stuck just reading and just, and instead of getting out there does something that other things can't. So, thank you so much for your support and prayers for this campaign. Also, continue the prayers, because these people were in the affected area of the hurricane, and of course for that entire coastal area. But in Sunshine.
Jake, the 30%, or 1/3 actually, about 33 1/3%. I've been watching these statistics on doors knocked and responses. I've been watching this ever since we began our campaigns back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about average. You knock on 3 doors, the average out, you'll meet 1 person, or you'll meet 1 contact. So that's not something to feel bad about. That's just about the way it's always gone for more than 30 years.
Good.
All right, any comments or questions for Jake?
Good job.
Huh? Oh yeah, I did almost get arrested.
I think that's
For you guys, yeah, well, forgot. I felt like Paul for a minute because John Williams and I were door knocking, and we all were in this neighborhood, and the cop pulled up, said, "Son, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, we're just door knocking for the church, son. You can't be doing this." Because we did not know this was a no soliciting. It was like the entire town was a no soliciting. The city, you cannot solicit at any home. So we actually had to leave the city limits and go just in Richland, because Richland was right next to Jacksonville. But
And we had anticipated that would be an issue at some point, but I think this is the first time we've run into that where the whole town has a no solicitation
Yeah, I never heard of that.
issue. And I think the getting arrested, isn't that like you have to do that every campaign, almost get arrested?
Well,
Isn't that
this
a
wouldn't be the
requirement?
first time we've had issue with cops.
emergency room.
Okay.
You know what? Yeah. Second
There's
time.
always some kind of police interaction in these campaigns.
That's just a taste of what Western Europe is. They've basically shut down the door knocking. in Western Europe.
Yeah.
You have to find other ways to reach the people.
All right, Will, go ahead.
Well, I'd just like to say that nobody even almost got arrested on our campaign, so that was a success in itself. It's always an interesting thing to get to go back to your own hometown and do a campaign. So that was very enjoyable and it was a unique experience. But I thought it went really well. We were able to work with Westview congregation there, and really ever since I was a kid, their numbers and attendance have slowly decreased, and so I think it was a really good thing that we were able to work with them for a week. Our campaign was myself and Aaron and Renee and Paul and Ricky came for I think 3 days, and so we were graced by his presence during that. And when we arrived that Saturday, we took just a quick tour of the church building to kind of get them acquainted with it. And then our congregation every year has a fall feast, and so we were able to go to that and have a potluck meal more or less with the congregation. And they got to meet at least some of the people that were there. Then Sunday morning I was able to preach, and after that we had a potluck meal, and we invited anybody who wanted to join us after the afternoon service where Paul preached to door knock. And we were surprised almost that I don't think we had anybody from the congregation besides the preacher to work with us that afternoon. But it was okay because later in the week we did have some congregation participation in that. And so we started in the area the church building was in. We started across the road, but the problem was that was a kind of a more affluent area. They are mostly church members somewhere. There's not really much poverty in that area of town, and so we didn't have a lot of success because people just either weren't interested or they were already members somewhere, and that's something we ran into quite a lot in Lewisburg. But one thing we were advertising with the door knocking was we had a campaign, a coat giveaway that was going to be on Wednesday afternoon, and so we wanted to get the word out about that. In helping to plan this, I actually have to give some credit to Dr. Bajent's class, Prep for Missions, because one of the projects we did was you had to pick a place where you would do some kind of ministry. And so because I'm also the youth intern there over the summer for the past 3 years, I decided I would do it over Lewisburg. And what I found out was that we have one of the highest unemployment rates as far as the counties in Tennessee. And so a coat giveaway, anything we could do to help the community in general, we thought was going to be a success. And so we planned a coat giveaway, and I appreciate anybody here who donated coats to that. I know that I took 2 trunk loads, and some other people brought coats to donate towards that effort, so I appreciate that. But for 2 days we knocked doors in that area, and like I said, it was okay because we got a lot of doors knocked, but we didn't have a lot of beneficial contacts. We, I think, had maybe 1 study set up that day. We were able to pray with a couple people over the week, though. But starting, I guess, Tuesday, we started working in some of the lower income levels of housing in Lewisburg. And so that proved to probably be the most well received overall. We had a lot of good contacts there, and like Jake and them did, we decided that all the studies we were going to set up, we were going to leave those for Rick, our preacher, to handle after we were gone. And that way it would be, they could get used to studying with him. And you wouldn't study with us for a couple days and then somebody else try and take over and figure out where they were and everything. So we just thought that would be more practical. And then Wednesday, we had our coat giveaway, and we had a lot of people there for that. But we had been given so many coats that we only gave away maybe a third of our coats that day. And so we decided that we would have another coat giveaway the next morning. And so we got that done, and we still donated about 100 coats to another charity done by Channel 4 News in the Nashville area. But for the week, we knocked 861 doors and contacted 393 people. We were able to set up a few studies, and like I said before, we were able to pray with somebody, a few people. On Monday night, our youth minister's mom, who'd been visiting off and on for the past couple of years, she was baptized, and so that was a great thing. And am I leaving anything out big, Paul?
Internet study with that Leon reporters.
Yeah, we were able to study while we were door knocking. We studied with a couple different people about a couple different things, and our time's about up. Does anybody have any more questions or anything? Comments?
They fed us good.
They did feed us good. They've always been able to cook pretty good up that way, and so we enjoyed the cooking.